Doom 2016 was a solid reboot of the franchise, but from a gameplay perspective, Doom Eternal runs laps around it. Doom Eternal improves on every single aspect of Doom 2016, and a large part of that stems from the game taking some chances and funneling players into a fun zone. Doom Eternal might be a sequel to Doom 2016, but it is definitely not just Doom 2016 version 2.0 or Doom 2016 2. I think Doom Eternal polarized some people because of the decisions made with its combats, and while it is still a commercial product that all players can experience, it didn't cast as wide of a net as Doom 2016. Just as an example, the focus on resource management and players having low ammo turned a few people off, and I think it was rather a bold decision to make. What if Doom Eternal was Doom 2016 version 2 though? Well, if that was the case, then a lot of the footage we saw at QuakeCon 2018 would wind up being the final game. This QuakeCon footage is fake. Don't get me wrong, it's all in-engine gameplay, but the mechanics used were not necessary in the slightest. The footage was meant to give the illusion that the player was in a stressful, hard fight, but it wasn't the case. As Hugo Martin has said, all you needed to do was blast every demon with the super shotgun, and that's that. This reliance on the super shotgun is very similar to Doom 2016, since with that game, you don't really have to constantly weapon switch. I think at this point in the process, id Software knew they wanted to make a game like what we have now with Doom Eternal, but they didn't know how to exactly execute that plan. The meat hook and dash mechanics appeared in the QuakeCon footage, but again, they weren't necessary to use because there was no tension in the battle. These mechanics are pointless when they don't have clear utility within combat. The meat hook, for example, was just a cool device at this point in 2018. How did id Software make Doom Eternal into a game that wasn't just Doom 2016 again? They added the dash, the meat hook, the extra lives, but there was no pushback from the demons, and by extension, no clear purpose to use all of the weapons. This is the turning point of Doom Eternal's development in my opinion, with how they needed to beef up the demons and make them into an actual threat. Doom 2016 was about making you feel like a badass right out of the gate, but in Doom Eternal, they make you earn that power. If they didn't make the demons more powerful to counter the added abilities of the Doomslayer, this game would have been a letdown. The enemies are more aggressive than in Doom 2016 and will keep players on their toes, but at the same time, you have more than enough weapons to take them out, along with the ability to dismantle their weak points. Both of these combat elements, as well as the cooldown system, faltering and staggering enemies, and more, all feed into each other, and it's fantastic in Doom Eternal. If you look at the game's roster, you will see that almost every gun and mod kills certain demons more effectively. Now that's not to say that one gun can only kill one enemy, as if that happened, Doom Eternal wouldn't be a Doom game, but they struck a perfect balance of weapon utility. This is exactly how the original Doom games were like, and I think that has been lost on people throughout the years. Even though every gun can kill every enemy in classic Doom, certain weapons are more appropriate depending on your situation. For instance, you wouldn't use the rocket launcher in a small crowded corridor, and if you wanted to stunlock a bigger enemy, you would use the chain gun or plasma rifle. I explained all of this in my Doom Eternal retrospective, and I'll let some of that play here. Let's use Doom 2 as our example, since it includes the super shotgun and all of the new monster types. So the normal shotgun is a good weapon to use, but it doesn't have a huge spread, and in tougher levels, you need something else to take care of the increased enemy counts. This is where the super shotgun comes in, and although it's great for taking out large groups of enemies, you can't snipe for shit, since the bullets spray all over the place. The normal shotgun, on the other hand, is used quite a lot for sniping monsters from far away. One of the other downsides about the super shotgun is the reload time and how it doesn't really falter enemies well. The chain gun is excellent for fodder control, faltering enemies, and sniping when you tap the mouse button, not when you hold click and fire. I mean, look at this encounter with the Arachnotron. Most of the time, using the chain gun, he'll be continually in his pain state and can't do shit. The chain gun isn't the most powerful weapon though compared to the plasma rifle, but it's still pretty damn good for clearing out weaker enemies. The plasma rifle, as I said, is stronger than the chain gun and can take out the tougher enemies quicker, but it shares ammo with the BFG, so sometimes you need to make a choice about what weapon to use and at what times. As for the rocket launcher, it is an awesome weapon, but it is the greatest risk-reward in the game. It's very powerful and will kill most demons with only a couple of rockets, but that splash damage can be insane, so it's up to you on what you use. Something like Plutonia encourages rocket launcher use more with its open spaces and higher monster counts, but with, I don't know, knee-deep in the dead, with the abundance of corridors, it might not be the best gun to use. All of these little meta elements are from the original Doom games from the 90s, so how can anyone say that Doom Eternal flies against what Doom 1 and 2 stand for with its updated weapon mechanics? Classic Doom has situational combat, and while it isn't the most complex weapon meta in the world, clear utility for each gun was still in the game's DNA. This idea falls short with Doom 2016, as you can basically use the super shotgun for anything, as I've pointed out. While this might have been fun the first time around, Doom Eternal needed to shake things up, and it did eventually. I mean, this wasn't initially the case during the development of Doom Eternal, but luckily they turned it around. If Doom Eternal was just Doom 2016 version 2, it would not have the same lasting impact. Of course, Doom 2016 was still acclaimed and I played the shit out of it when it came out, but compared to Doom Eternal's combat, it doesn't have the same longevity. I mean, I'm still figuring stuff out with the mechanics of Doom Eternal, and I'm still testing different weapon mods and switching up my approach. The more proactive demons and id Software tightening up the game's weapon utility was an excellent move on their part, and while the Quakecon version of Doom would have still been fun, it wouldn't have felt like a true evolution of what came before. Doom Eternal is a game that you want to master due to the sheer depth of the combats. With Doom 2016, I felt like after you beat it once, there kinda wasn't too much to chill on in regards to mastering the combat loop. Doom Eternal is the opposite, and id Software making it so that players get the most out of the game when they play it 2 to 3 times and really understand the combat mechanics is another gutsy decision, but it paid off because people are still talking about this game. I don't think we would have gotten this if id Software didn't self-reflect during development. This is why I love modern id, as they are always striving for perfection. When I beat Doom 2016, I had issues with the combat and the underwhelming incidental demon encounters, and that was fixed with Doom Eternal. When I beat Doom Eternal, I thought to myself, I have no idea where they are going to go from here. I'm not saying the combat is for everyone, and if you don't like being heavily encouraged to switch weapons or having the more aggressive demons, then that's fine. I know there are also platforming sections that I like but some may hate, and I'm not trying to say that Doom Eternal isn't worthy of criticism. I just believe that id Software leaped 10 steps into the right direction with the game. id Software didn't have to make Doom Eternal the way that they did, and I feel like even if they didn't polish up the combat mechanics from Doom 2016, then it still would have gotten critical acclaim. That being said, the longevity of the game would have been ripped in half, and people would not be talking about the game today. Doom Eternal and Doom 2 have a lot in common in this sense, and it's a pretty perfect comparison. Of course, the surface level similarities are there. Both games are set on Earth during a Hell invasion, both games feature the Arachnotron and Archvile, etc. However, the biggest similarity that I can draw is that Doom 2 and Doom Eternal's longevity stems from the new demons. I mean, think about it, if Doom 2 just added the super shotgun and called it a day, nobody would be batting an eye at the game all of these years later. Yes, the super shotgun is one of the best weapons of all time, but why? It's because of how it counters the newly added powerful demons like the Arachnotron, the Mancubus, the Pain Elemental, and more. If Doom Eternal shipped without the updated demon AI and it just featured the dash and meat hook mechanic, nobody would give Doom Eternal the same attention as they do with the aggressive enemies and weapon utility. To wrap up here, I am so glad that Doom Eternal came out the way it did, and that they truly clearly learned from the QuakeCon footage. I have full confidence in id Software to crank out future high-quality Doom games, but I personally have no idea where they can go from here. In an upcoming video, I will go over the future of id Software and speculate on what is next for the company, but that's all for another time. Doom Eternal is by all accounts eternal because of the bold decisions made during development. Thanks for watching.